Can it even be fathomable better without Alexander Isak?
No, absolutely not. I mean, Alexander Isak's one of the best strikers in the world. They lost him, and obviously they've done well, I think, in getting Voltemada in there, and they can still be a really competitive side. And I like what he's about, Voltemada. He reminds me a little bit of what Harry Kane is like when he gets into pockets. He's link up. He's not just a goal scorer. He can play as well, and he's got great feet for a big man. So, look, I like what he's about, but he's not Alexander Isak.
If you like him to Kane, I mean, that is high praise.
That's high praise, but he's not Harry Kane. That's high praise, of course.
His style of play.
Yeah, but his style of play, the way he likes to get on the ball, his link-up play is good. For someone who's so tall, normally you think, as Eddie Howe says, you want to get him in the box, you want to get him, his crosses are going to be important for him, but he can play, and he can link up. But Alexander Isak was an unbelievable football player, and he's going to go to Liverpool and do incredible things. So to say they're going to be better, come on.
Yeah, Craig.
I like Elanga, by the way. I think Elanga's been a great signing for them.
He was brilliant at Forest.
Really good
Craig's
player.
is 100% stronger without Isak. Voltemada's fitting in well. 3 goals in 6 games, hold-up play, touches and passing.
Every Newcastle fan's going to say that, aren't they? Because they're absolutely devastated that they lost the best player they've seen since Alan Shearer. Do they're going to be devastated. They lost Alexander Isak. They've done well. They've brought in a good player. But, you can't sit here and tell me that Newcastle are a better team without Alexander Isak. Come on. What planet are we living on?
Well, the Bayern executive, Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, will agree with you, because he says on Voltemada, Newcastle were, his quote, idiots for paying £69 million for him.
Well, no, I disagree with that. For a going rate for a top European striker now is around 60, 70 million. 100 million you got to pay now for, one that's guaranteed. Voltemada for £69 million, I think he's going to be a really good business. He's shown already that he's a good player. He can score goals. He's settled in. I think he suits the Premier League, his style of play. So I think he's perfect for Newcastle. I don't think he's Alexander Isak standard, and I don't think he can be, because they're different players. But I love what he's showing, and I think he's a really good player. So to say they're idiots for spending that sort of money, well, he scored goals already.
The Premier League do tend to, according to everyone else in Europe, overpay for players anyway. By the way, we're asking the fans this morning in the poll which striker is looking the best out of Voltemada, Gyökeres and Sesko, just because they cost kind of similar amounts of money, is why I've chosen those 3.
Where did you do this poll?
But
did you send it? Did you send it out in Newcastle?
Are you suggesting that? Are you suggesting that it's another hijacked poll this time? No, well, it's always Arsenal fans who get accused of hijacking polls. That's Gyökeres is second on there, but 66 for Voltemada, 24 for Gyökeres, and 10% for Sesko. With the Sesko one is the caveat that it's taking him a while to actually get into the side. He has got off the mark now. Yeah, and it doesn't help that he's playing in a really poor Manchester United side. Voltemada and Gyökeres have gone to football teams who are in a good state and look like they're going to be, firing on all fronts. Manchester United are awful, so it's tough for Sesko because he's gone into a side who are struggling with no confidence, and the manager doesn't know what he's doing. So I think Sesko can become, a really good player in the Premier League, but it's clear and obvious right now who the best 2 are that have come in so far, Voltemada and I think Gyökeres, though, for me. Look, Gyökeres for me is exactly what Arsenal needed. They needed a front man, they needed a target man, they needed someone who was going to, change the way that they attack, and that's what they've brought in. So, look, Voltemada's been a really good buy, but Gyökeres is what Arsenal needed. Well, let's open this debate up and speak to a Newcastle United fan, Ben Johnson. Right, Ben, let's start with Voltemada. Did Newcastle look like idiots for signing him? Because Karl-Heinz Rummenigge suggested that you were.
I think that's a really disrespectful comment to Newcastle United, lads. Like you said before, 70 million, it's the going rate. If in a few years' time Voltemada's come in and he's taken the Premier League by storm, it's going to look like peanuts. You've got to take the risk in this day and age in football. And like you said, it's the going rate. I don't think it was overpriced. And from what we've seen so far, it looks absolutely fantastic bit of business from the team.
We've been asking the viewers whether they'd prefer, who's been the best signing out of Voldemort, Gyökeres and Sesko. But of course, you were in for Ekitike and you used to have Isak. So Voldemort, Isak or Ekitike for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, Ekitike, he looks the business. I've been really impressed with his start. Pains me to say it a little bit, but he looks a real player. Isak, slow start. But at the end of the day, we can't really judge these players until the end of the season and beyond. You know, it's not just 8 games and we're kind of going to give an overview of how they've done since they signed. Yes, Isak's had a slow start. He's a great player. Ekitike is, you know, he's come in, he's done the business, he's scored a few already. But so is Voldemort. So I think, like I say, the proof will be in the pudding at the end of the season. And we can, you know, have a good debate about it then. But I've been impressed, very impressed. His hold-up play looks excellent. His link-up play looks excellent. And he just looks like a real player to me.
I like what Newcastle are about, you know. I think, you know, if you look at the way they play, I think they're the most exciting team to watch in the Premier League right now. You know, the football that they play is brilliant, but they've also got that sort of, you know, you can have a bit of a nightmare at the back or you can concede goals. But I just love their attitude. I love the mentality that they want to go and play football. They want to go out there with passion and the way they approach games. You know, what is the aim for Newcastle this season?
Yeah, I like to think it's to maybe win another trophy. You know, we've set the standard last season. First trophy in 70 years. And you know, it's kind of set the bar, Jamie. It's kind of raised our hopes as to what we can achieve up here. Eddie Howe's done brilliantly since he come in. But, you know, I think it's going to be a long time until we win the Premier League. You know, that's probably the ideal dream. And we haven't been able to do that. PSR restrictions have made it so that we can't spend the likes of Chelsea and Man City did when they got their takeovers. So we're having to do it a different way. But you know, I don't know. I feel
why does
like
no one ever come in? Why does no one ever come in for Eddie Howe? It's always a bit baffling because since he's been at Newcastle, the Chelsea jobs become available, Manchester United, Liverpool, Tottenham, all these clubs have come. England job came available, yet no one appears to have even gone in for Eddie Howe. Why is that? Because he seems like an obvious choice.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question and it's a good debate. I mean, from what I believe, I think England were sniffing around. I'm not sure if Howe kind of turned down the advances, so they didn't pursue it any further. But, you know, he's got a big contract. He signed a contract extension not too long ago. He's on great money. And ultimately, I believe he likes it here. It's one of them things like, you know, it's a risk if he leaves this job and he goes somewhere else. It's a risk. Here he's got the support of the owners, the backing of the players. There's a great team spirit, and you don't get that everywhere else. You know, so he's probably thinking, I'm onto a good thing here.
Yeah.
We are progressing season on season, and we are, although it's not as fast as we would have liked. So yeah, I feel like he's happy here, and long may it continue.
If Man United did really come in for him, though, if Man United did want him properly, he'd leave.
I disagree on that one. Maybe if it was 1999, I think he'd probably he'd be driving himself down there as fast as he could. But you know, things move on in football, and that's a good point, Jamie. You know, people talk about Man United, and yes, they're still a massive club, but are they a well-run club? I don't think they are, and I think Amarim's on borrowed time at the minute, and so they probably will be looking. But you know, there's a lot of issues behind the scenes there. A lot of changes have been made, cutbacks, etc., and the kind of ethos of the club. Here we haven't got that. You know, we've kind of built from the depths of Mike Ashley, from the despair what we went through there, and we've got this real feel-good factor now around the club. And I just don't think it's as black and white. Excuse the pun. If he. You know, to say that he would automatically sign for Man United should they make a move. I just don't see it at the minute.
He does seem to have more power than other managers at big clubs in the Premier League. Yeah, well, he's earned it. 6 points from 6 games in the Premier League. You've had a bit of bad luck in that spell as well. But how big is this game at home to Nottingham Forest on Sunday?
Yeah, it's massive. Really, really big. I mean, we have had a slow start to the season. Obviously, you're losing Isak. Voltemade coming in. Last night was the first time that we saw the front three of Elanga, Gordon and Voltemade, and they looked impressive. But that was the first time we've seen it. So it has been a slow start. It's going to take time for us to link up and kind of get that know-how of how each player is going to play and understanding. But it's a massive game. We haven't had a good start. We need the points on the board. You look at the gap already between the top four and where we are. Look at where Sunderland are. That can't be sitting very well with the players and the Toon fans. It
is. So we sitting well with some other fans and players as well.
You're enjoying it.
We'll see where we are on December the 13th, I suppose, or the day after, I suppose.
Is that when it is?
Ben, it is. So it's etched in our minds, believe me. Ben, thanks very much indeed.
It's a huge game. It's a huge game.
I can't wait.
We really need to get those points on the board.
Yeah,
definitely.
All right. Well, we'll see on Sunday. Ben, thank you.
Well, what we certainly saw from Liverpool last night, Haley, was a number of mistakes. We saw them work good attacking positions. In fact, the tone was set early on in the game with working those good attacking positions, yet almost straight away from that, Galatasaray were able to get in behind Szoboszlai, Yilmaz, I think it was, and causing Liverpool problems. And we look at the fact that there were 4 changes made to that starting lineup, a change as well for Jeremy Frimpong playing on the right wing in the more Mo Salah role, if you like, Szoboszlai at right back, Curtis Jones coming back into the midfield, and Hugo Ekitike starting up front. Now, Arne has often made the point that one of their great strengths last season was continuity of selection, but it was also one of the weaknesses towards the back end of the season as well, as they were kind of running on empty in many respects, given the workload that they'd had throughout the season. So he feels this season he needs to rotate that a little bit more, and that's obviously what he tried to do last night. But I mentioned the fact that mistakes had crept in. When Liverpool coughed up possession, they certainly found themselves too open at times, and it was far too easy for Galatasaray to create opportunities in that respect as well. So we put it to Arne in that post-match news conference as to whether changes are really the big reason behind those mistakes that we saw from Liverpool last night, and this is what Arne had to say in response.
What you see is, and I think I've explained this many times, that there are a few players from us that missed pre-season, so you simply cannot play them every single game. Yeah, you can, but then that could become a risk of players getting injured. We see this more and more because the demands go up more and more, and if the demands go up, you have to prepare players for these demands. And so yeah, that means that it's not always that I want to rotate, but sometimes I just need to, because a player is not ready to play 3 times 90 minutes in 7 or 8 days.
And Vinny, look, to make matters worse for Slot, there are injury concerns, aren't there, for a couple of his key players?
That's right, Haley. It made a disappointing night, even more so because there were those injuries to Ekitike and to Alisson as well. Ekitike went down in about the 68th minute. He was just overstretching, trying to retrieve possession of ball behind him, and you almost knew immediately, I think, that he was going to have to come off. And it seemed quite hopeful at full time as to whether Ekitike is not going to suffer any long-term damage in that respect, not spend too much time on the sidelines, although there was that caveat to that, the adrenaline's still pumping after a game, and when you're walking around, it's a little bit different to sprinting. There was more concern over Alisson, the injury he picked up, though. It seemed quite innocuous at the time, made a save, but then he signalled pretty quickly to the bench that he couldn't continue, had a little bit of treatment on the pitch, and then had to go off. And so, again, we asked Arne what the situation would be and how likely he is to play against Chelsea at the weekend, and this is what Arne had to say.
With my players on the floor, I 9 out of 10 times fear the worst. And with the worst, I mean that he cannot continue, and that's what happened with Alisson. So yeah, then normally he will not be able to play Saturday. That's 99.9%. I've already said 100%, but let's make it 99.9. But I think it's 100.
Can I just check on Hugo Ekitike as well? It looked like he seemed to pull something when he stretched.
Yeah. He felt something. He said he couldn't continue, so we had to take him off. Let's see how he is for the weekend.
So big injury concerns ahead of that game against Chelsea. The positive for Liverpool, of course, is that they are still 3 points clear at the top of the Premier League. But for that to remain intact, or to even to build on that, performances need to improve from what we've seen against Crystal Palace and against Galatasaray last night.
William Saliba opens up on Arsenal frustrations and his mission to win trophies. William Saliba has officially committed his long-term future to Arsenal. signing a new 5-year contract and turning down interest from European giants like Real Madrid. But for the French defender, this decision wasn't just about loyalty, it was about unfinished business. Speaking candidly about his journey so far with the Gunners, Saliba made it clear, he's not satisfied yet. Despite his rising status as one of the Premier League's top centre-backs, he hasn't lifted the kind of silverware that truly defines a legacy. He, Trent Alexander-Arnold, won some titles with Liverpool, Saliba said, when asked why he stayed at Arsenal despite Real Madrid's interest. Me? I haven't won anything here yet, just the Community Shield. That's not enough. I haven't done anything to feel like I should leave. I want to win trophies here. A lot of them. This level of honesty is rare and refreshing. Saliba's hunger reflects the mood of the squad and the expectations of the fans. And it's a mindset that manager Mikel Arteta deeply values. It's great news for the club, Arteta said of the contract extension. Willie deserves this. His impact on the team has been phenomenal. We're building something special, and he's a key part of that foundation. Saliba also confirmed he's now fully recovered from the ankle injury that briefly interrupted his season. As Arsenal prepares for their Champions League clash against Olympiacos, he's clear about what needs to happen next. The club's long trophy drought has to end. I've been here for 3 years, and every time we finish second, it stings, he admitted. You go on vacation, but you're not really celebrating. You're thinking about what could have been. It doesn't feel right. Saliba's frustration isn't only about missed trophies. His path to becoming a starter at Arsenal wasn't smooth. After signing from Saint-Étienne in 2019, he spent the better part of 2 years on loan, including a spell at Nice that, at the time, left him questioning everything. When I arrived in 2020, I didn't play for 6 months. Then I was loaned out. Of course, I had doubts. I wondered if I'd ever play for this club, he said. But I told myself I couldn't leave without trying. Even when I was training with the under-21s, I kept working. When they told me in December it was best to go on loan, I was angry. I needed to play. But I never gave up. I went, I played, I came back, and I proved I could start. I'm proud of that. It shows you should never quit. That resilience, the refusal to walk away even when the odds were stacked against him, has shaped the player and the man Saliba is today. It's also what makes his connection to the club feel so personal. His love for Arsenal started long before he ever wore the shirt. Growing up in France, it was Thierry Henry, a club legend and Saliba's childhood hero, who made Arsenal feel like home, even from afar. My first Arsenal jersey had Henry on the back, he recalled. He was incredible to watch. Being French and seeing someone like him at a club like Arsenal, it inspired me. I was young, but I remember watching clips, especially that Champions League final in 2006 against Barcelona. That stayed with me. Now, Saliba isn't just wearing the same colours as his idol, he's trying to carry on that legacy. His admiration for Henry became motivation. His loyalty to Arsenal is about more than a contract. It's about identity, pride, and ambition. Despite heavy links to top European clubs, including Real Madrid, Saliba insists he never seriously considered leaving. To be honest, I wasn't really focused on the outside interest, he said. I was focused on staying here. I knew I wanted to be part of this project for years to come. So I'm happy. I'm proud to sign a new contract and keep going. And he's not the only one feeling the pressure to deliver. Mikel Arteta knows that expectations have changed. From the moment I took the job, I knew I wanted to win big trophies here, Arteta said. That's the standard. That's the ambition. No one needs to remind us of that. It's what we expect from ourselves. Excuses have never been part of my mindset. As Arsenal prepares for another shot at glory, both domestically and in Europe, Saliba stands at the heart of it all, stronger, more determined, and more connected than ever to the club he now proudly calls home. Saliba's commitment arrives at a crucial time for Arsenal. After back-to-back seasons of falling just short in the Premier League title race, the pressure to finally convert progress into silverware is at an all-time high. His decision to stay signals not just belief in the project, but also a call for accountability, both from himself and his teammates. Inside the dressing room, his words have reportedly resonated. According to sources close to the squad, Saliba has emerged as a growing leader, not just through his performances, but in how he's approached the off-season, rehab, and now the new campaign. For a player still only 24 years old, it's a sign of maturity and ambition. The timing of his comments, ahead of a critical Champions League group stage opener, only heightens their impact. Arsenal's return to Europe's top competition last season ended in disappointment, exiting in the quarter-finals. Now, with a more seasoned squad and a stronger defensive core, there's an expectation that they'll go further. For Saliba, that means not only defending with discipline, but setting a tone of seriousness and hunger from the backline forward. Outside the club, his decision to reject Real Madrid has stirred conversation in both England and Spain. Some pundits have framed it as a rare example of a top young talent turning down the allure of Madrid in favour of loyalty and unfinished work. Others see it as a signal that Arsenal, once again, is a destination club, capable of retaining elite talent in their prime, not just developing it. That kind of perception shift matters, particularly as the Gunners continue to compete for high-profile signings and work to maintain the progress made under Mikel Arteta. In many ways, Saliba's choice reinforces the club's vision, a young, competitive core built for sustained success, not short-term fixes. Still, questions remain. Can Arsenal handle the pressure of being favourites? Can they manage the physical and mental demands of chasing a title across multiple fronts? And how much longer will players like Saliba remain patient if the club doesn't deliver the trophies they now publicly crave? For Saliba, at least, the answer is simple. He's staying because he believes it can happen, and that it should happen. I came back, and I've started almost every game since. I've seen the growth of this team up close. I know what we're capable of, he said. But we have to prove it. Talking isn't enough. As the season unfolds, all eyes will be on how Saliba and Arsenal respond to that challenge. For now, though, the message is clear. The club's defensive anchor is not just here to stay, he's here to win.